Preparing your manuscript. Before you begin investigating possible journal options, it's essential to spend time understanding your current project and the audience you would like to reach. Throughout your career, you're likely to be involved in many types of research, producing a variety of content. Typically, people focus on the research article, but you may publish review articles, whether that's a literature or theory review or a systematic review, position pieces, case studies, book reviews, and so on. Sometimes your work will be written for specialists in your field, but you may also choose to write for practitioners or to engage in public scholarship, writing for the general public or with policymakers. So take time to determine your objectives. And when you begin investigating the appropriate place to publish, remember, you're joining an ongoing conversation in your field. Make sure that you are contributing thoughtfully to that conversation. Here's some simple guidance for you to consider while preparing your manuscript. First of all, think like an editor. Make it easy for them to read and, more importantly, enjoy your work. Depending on the size of a journal, editors can receive anywhere from 50 to well over 1,000 manuscripts a year, so make sure yours stands out. Here are some basic tips to help you make your argument easy to read and to understand. Write first and edit later. This will help you to create a through line in your paper, that line that holds all the different parts together. Simplicity is key, especially when you're dealing with complex problems and theories. So think about your sentence structure and your use of the passive voice. I usually recommend that sentences should be relatively short, no longer than 2.5 lines on a page. Otherwise, the reader can become a bit lost. The same with passive voice. While we tend to use it often in method sections, it should be balanced with an active sentence construction, i.e., subject, verb, object. The goal is to make it as easy as possible for the reader to understand your arguments and the evidence you're providing. The most important strategy for achieving this is to create a clear and easy-to-follow structure to your paper. Irrespective of discipline, most academic papers follow this model, the IMRAD model. It is especially important that you create a strong introduction, so 2 to 3 pages that establishes the research question or problem you're exploring, provides a clear thesis or argument which you can see and understand, and make sure that your argument stands out. Don't bury it in the midst of the third paragraph. You should also provide an outline of the paper, letting readers know what they can expect. And the outline would include the methods or theory section, the results or findings, a discussion, and finally a conclusion. Now, these sections might be called slightly different things depending on discipline, but essentially they contain the same type of information. Lastly, your role is that of a storyteller. It's up to you to give life to the exciting story of your research, so be brave and be bold. Once you publish, you of course would like people to be able to find and to read your work. This begins with the basics, the first elements of your article the potential readers will see, the title and the abstract. Title styles and formats can vary somewhat depending on subject area and the individual's writing style. However, there are some tricks to keep in mind when composing your title. Write the title after you've written the paper, though it's not a bad idea to jot down ideas while you're writing, especially if you struggle to come up with good titles. Keep it short and to the point, so we would recommend 16 words or fewer. And avoid any jargon or abbreviations in your title. It's fine to have them in your paper where you can explain them, but you won't have room to explain them in your title. Include some of the essential terms in your paper. And for those of you using qualitative methods where the temptation is to use a quote in the title, make sure that you provide a subtitle that will indicate what the paper is about. Why are abstracts important? Abstracts should tell the reader what the article is about. They're like film trailers. They should give you a sense of what the story is about without providing all the detail. Here are some basic tips. As with the title, it's difficult to write a decent abstract before you actually finish the paper, as the abstract is an overview of the content. Make sure that you know the parameters for the particular journal you're submitting to. Most journals have word counts for their abstracts, and some have very specific guidance on format and structure. Think about who your potential audience is and write it for them. You might use slightly different words if you're hoping to attract a practitioner audience as opposed to an audience of researchers who are deeply embedded in your specific research area. And do choose language carefully. Think about the keywords and how someone might search for your work. And if your work's interdisciplinary, think about how other disciplines talk about that subject and what language they use. Once you've written your abstract, go through and remove any unnecessary words so that you're focused on the essential information. If you end up revising your paper, which you will likely do during the peer review process, and you revise it after you've written the abstract, make sure to go back and review your abstract and revise it as well so that it matches that current draft of your paper. Read your abstract out loud and have others read it for fluency. If your abstract is difficult to read, it's unlikely that people will click through to the article because they'll imagine that the article is poorly written as well. Along with titles and abstracts, authors are often asked to provide keywords that will be included in the metadata for the article. These act as flags and searches to help readers find your work. Make sure to identify the words and phrases that would be effective in searching for your work. Use synonyms, as people might use slightly different words. When using words and phrases, be specific to narrow down the search results. Think about using qualifiers, as with the example on this slide. And test your words in Google Scholar and Google. What results do you get? Is it what you would expect? Fantastic. If not, think about refining them.